There.
Got it.
Hey, everyone. I would like to introduce you to Kath. Kath Jones has come all the way to us via Zoom from Brisbane or Queensland. Which town are you from, or where are you from over that region?
On the Sunshine Coast.
On the Sunshine Coast. She's come all the way from the Sunshine Coast. Kath is a qualified certified health coach, and she comes from a background in physio, and her passion is helping people manage pain, and also through a cancer journey. She's there to support you with your nutrition and movement. So, Kath, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's a new venture for me, so I'm pretty excited about getting some, I guess, followings in Perth, because we don't have a lot of, there's not a big family of low carb professionals that I've been able to find yet. So I'm hoping that this podcast will shed some light and give some people some education. So please tell us about yourself.
Hi. Oh, I think it's amazing what you're doing, Linda. I just think, it's brave and it's amazing. And just, sometimes you've just got to start that journey yourself, haven't you, really?
Yes.
If it's not there, you've got to go and make it, really.
Yeah.
So I'm Kath. I guess I come back from a background of physio. I've been doing physio for about 26 years. Trained in the UK, been via New Zealand to Australia. I'm currently working in aged care, which is absolutely amazing, and it allows me to bring a lot of skills and things and communication and just amazing experiences with elderly people. But I've done an awful lot of stuff and managed pain clinics and worked with cancer patients and things like that. So so my health coaching kind of comes on the background of being a physio. I kind of just realized really that the more physio I did, the more time I spent talking and trying to really understand what people's inner beliefs were and why they couldn't make changes or why they were getting stuck and things like that. So just decided to kind of look into it a little bit more and kind of stumbled into health coaching, which is amazing and really fits the bill and is working well.
Good. So tell me about a typical day as a health coach for Kaths when you're working with your patients. What's your take? How do you approach the low carb lifestyle with them, or do you just do low carb lifestyle, or bring in all your other techniques that you've learned?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all on the client's agenda, really. I mean, some of them will know a little bit about the fact that I do work with low carb. Some people, it's a bit of a surprise when we kind of start talking about it. I would, as a health coach, you're offering education to people, but you're not, as I say, their agenda is very much what they want to deal with. And sometimes they are ready for talking about nutrition. Other times they just want to talk about exercise or starting a new habit or something like that. So, or, that they just want to find a little bit more zest in life, really. And so most people eventually get down to the subject of nutrition at some point, though. Generally it's more about, and some people do ask what you're doing, and other times you just say, well, I've got a little bit of knowledge on that. How would you like me to tell you about what I know about a low carb lifestyle, or this might be useful? Is that something that you would like information about?
It sounds to me like you're coming from a really holistic perspective. You haven't got a main, you must do this, you must do this. So you're very pliable with your clients and help them to find their own purpose with a bit of guidance from yourself. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. It's their journey. I absolutely believe that every person has it inside themselves to find their way forwards. And sometimes it's just about asking the right questions. I can be challenging, I don't mind being challenging sometimes, and if you've if you've done a discovery session with somebody and set out, like, how much do you want to be challenged? Are there things that you do want to be talked about? Are there things that we should be leaving alone? And so a lot of it's a bit of intuition, I suppose, of knowing when the right moments are to asking things. But I just think people do know what they want to do. They just don't know how to achieve things. Or they don't believe that they can. Maybe they don't believe that they can really achieve things. It's that thing is I've given up smoking versus I'm trying to give up smoking. Once you actually get that belief set in your head that you're okay with this idea and things, I think it becomes so much easier. So maybe it's about guidance. It's about guidance through listening, maybe real listening, and really people being heard. I think there's so many people out there who have challenges in their life that they've never spoken to people at all about this, and I think sometimes just having somebody to support you and talk to you is sometimes enough.
Yeah. I was interestingly, I was just listening to a podcast this morning on my way driving home through the city, and one of the coaches on there was talking about how important it is to prevent yourself from falling or having some age-related illness, like breaking your hip or breaking your femur or something, how important it is to keep moving, but also to feed your body properly so that you can have the strength in your legs. He talked about leg strength being a marker of aging. Have you got any thoughts around that? Is that anything that comes across your path that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think keeping strong and keeping active, keeping strong is one of the main drivers to good health and longevity. And in where I'm working at the moment in aged care, I see it so much. We've got people coming in, and people seem to be coming into aged care fairly young, and a lot of them unfortunately have sort of dementia type problems at a lesser age. And some of these people, and particularly, I'm working with gentlemen in particular, who they're actually pretty fit and strong. But then you put them in an aged care facility and they don't do anything. They have no purpose. They have no meaning to their life anymore. They don't mow lawns. They don't mend light bulbs. They just don't do the physical things. So they lose strength. They lose their motivation to do anything. And and then once you've lost that leg strength, yes, you'll fall over, your balance will go, all those kind of things. So that's one of the things that I love doing in that aged care facility is utilizing people to do strength and balance work and circuits and things like that. Getting people to get up and down off the floor. There are so many tests that you can do which are predictors of longevity and things. And I forget the exact research around it, but there's ones about being able to get off the floor without using your hands.
There is,
and horrific statistics about, breaking your hip and being dead 5 years later,
Oh gosh, okay, that's a bit frightening, isn't it?
Well, I think it's in the 90% of if you break your hip, you're likely, from a fall, likely to be dead. It's really high.
That's really
in
high,
the
isn't
aged
it?
population. Yeah, so it is.
I know.
But people,
Sorry, keep going.
That's okay.
I know that I teach Pilates, chair Pilates in a retirement village, in a nursing home actually, or it's kind of like a mix. Some of it's nursing and some of it's just people wanting a smaller place to live. And I'm really noticing the difference between the ability to move and their ability to have kept active in their life. So their story up to this point really, really shines out when they're trying to do chair Pilates, because I've got a couple of ladies that are in their 90s and some of them can still get up and down off a chair really well. They can still balance on one leg really well, probably better than me sometimes. But some of them that have not had an active life, that have not walked or, you know, taken up a hobby of cycling or swimming or just weight training or just had an active lifestyle, are just stuck in chairs. They can't get themselves up out of the chair. And it's really highlighted to me that importance of keeping moving, so we don't stop still sitting in a chair. So what are some fun ways that you get your clients, because you've mentioned a few things to me, some clinics that you've run in with paddleboarding, and tell me about how they went and what results you saw and how it felt to run them.
Yeah, so I was really lucky to be involved in PINK, which is a cancer rehabilitation program. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to, they suggested, they came to me and they said, do you want to teach people to paddleboard? And I was like, I can't even paddleboard myself. They said, that's okay, we'll teach you. So they flew these guys in from America, like amazing paddleboarders, like champion paddleboarders, to teach a group of people to, they were all PINK instructors, to paddleboard. So we learned how to paddleboard over a series of lessons.
And were you working as a physio then? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we set up groups of eight breast cancer survivors, and we got them together and we taught them to paddleboard. So they used to have once a week for 10 weeks of paddleboarding, and it was so amazing because these ladies were so scared they couldn't even get on a paddleboard. They were on their knees, they were quivering. It was just remarkable to start off with. And at 10 weeks we went on an adventure paddle, and they're like, these ladies weren't cancer survivors anymore, they were paddleboarders. And the difference that in them, and then they kept together afterwards and they socialized and they just had such a network. But it's so amazing, being on the water was just spiritual, really. They couldn't, and also from the point of view is like, how can you think about having cancer when you're in the middle of the ocean trying to stand upright on a paddleboard?
On the ocean, wow. Yeah,
it was on the sea. And
are paddleboards called supboards as well? Is that another name? Yeah, because I've tried to stand on my daughter's supboard. I might now. It's been a few years. I guess since I've been training and teaching Pilates, I might have a bit more core strength, perhaps, or hip strength. But that's phenomenal on the ocean. Wow.
Yeah. I have one lady, one of my most memorable ladies was a lady who was scared of sharks. And like, we were off Auckland, like there were no sharks or likelihood of sharks.
Yeah.
And so
slim.
Like very slim. And to get her in the water was absolutely amazing. I've been working with her for quite a long time, and she said, I think I might have a go at this. And because she came and sat on the beach even and watched the program before, but to get her out in the water and get her to be a paddleboard, and she bought a paddleboard at the end, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, that must have been so rewarding. Yeah, I can imagine how wonderful that must have felt. So is that your one main aim was the paddleboarding clinic, or did you do other groups with movement?
So we also did for cancer survivors as well. We did it was almost like a step aerobic type group. Yeah. It was called Next Steps. And so it was, again, doing exercise for strength and for Pilates and like kind of step aerobics a little bit, really. For them, this was on the back of a pain clinic, so I was working alongside a lot of pain related, and we had a gym next door to it that we used. So it was a lot of it was exercise based.
Pain's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because I know before I started Pilates, and the reason I started Pilates was I had a terrible lower back. I think it was sacroiliac kind of area. That's what the physios told me, that just I'd injured it riding my bike, doing a silly ride, and at the end of the ride I couldn't get off my bike, so I'd really hurt my hip. But a few physios told me that I had stirred the nerves, the feed or the nerve feed, and it made the pain worse than it was, or it might not be there, but the nerve had a memory, or the muscle of pain. Is that a thing? Do you know about that? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's really about the nervous system has a memory. It has, you can either overstimulate your nervous system. So even in the absence of pathology, your back could have no pathology to it, or else, you've had an acute injury and then after 3 months it's kind of considered as persistent or chronic. Is that there is no underlying pathology that you can change there anymore, but you can still have the memory of pain. And I think that's when people think quite often, people will say, oh, that last person told me it was all in my head. And it's like, it's not in your head. Your brain's in your head, and that's all part of the nervous system, but it's just about how the brain appreciates the impulses and things. So pain is an amazing area to work in. I find it very, very rewarding. I find it, again, it's about beliefs. It's about a belief that you can change and be better. Some people have had pain for a long time will believe that they're always in pain. But my take on it really is the fact that if you make people's in pain's world seems to get smaller and smaller until the only thing on the page is the pain. So the pain's here and my life is here. It's tiny, tiny. So if we can make their life bigger, if we can make other parts of it, it tends to shift the pain off the page. And the point is, you can never say that you're going to take someone's pain away, but you can make it less important. And sometimes the pain does subside after, making someone's life better, or more purposeful, I would say, and it's whatever they want to achieve in their life. So I think, the focus often is about getting rid of pain. Let's massage it. Let's do this. Let's do that. But very much,
look outside the square.
Absolutely look outside the square. And that might be, it might include nutrition. It certainly will include movement, because people are very fearful to move when they're in pain. But, it's bigger than that. It's about family dynamics as well. Some people, get a lot of benefit from being in pain. They get some attention. That's their life. But, not, you sometimes see these people, but it's just about being treating with kindness, I think, at the end of the day, actually listening to people's issues.
Good. It's important to listen, isn't it? More. That's a skill I'm learning, is to listen more than to talk, because I'm obviously better at talking than listening. But it's a skill I'm trying to pick up and have patience with. So
it's really interesting, though. Sorry to bury, but I've spent my whole life telling people what to do. It's just, as a mother, as a physio, people come to you to be told what to do. So they think you're the expert there. So with health coaching, it is a difficult switch around to listen really, really deeply, and to go, I'm not the expert on you.
Yes.
So that's been something to me that I've, you actively have to really work at that, and go, when you're talking, it's like all those thoughts come into your head, don't they? It's like, oh, I could ask this question or that question, or this will work really well here. But it's like, it's not about me. It's not about gaining facts. It's about actually somebody talking something through. So yeah, that's been a challenge.
Yeah, I know for me, I guess I've only sort of realised in the last 4 or 5 months that pain in my lower right-hand side buttocks has gone, and it's quite amazing, because the pain had gotten so bad that in the mornings I couldn't bend over, I couldn't bend down to look in my cupboards, and I was crawling on my all fours in my bedroom to get dressed. So it had got so bad, and you do feel feeble. You do feel like your world's at the end and you're not ever going to be a normal person again. And I can also relate that back to having been a cancer patient myself. You do feel your world does shrink, because you're having, you're going to the hospital, you're going to the doctors, your whole diary and your life revolves around a place where you don't want to be. So you do become very feeble and you don't move because you are in a bit of pain, or you might have had surgery and you don't want to disturb whatever healing's happening. So your world does become smaller, and it takes a lot of, I'm going to say, courage and just the need to want to move again, because it's much easier to sit still and not do anything. So I feel like being given the opportunity to paddleboard for those women, even women who haven't got a cancer journey or a cancer diagnosis, would think that that's fantastic. But those women must have thought, oh my God, I'm going to do this. So that must have been brilliant. Good on you for bringing that through, because they would have just loved it to bits, I'm sure.
Oh,
being normal.
It was amazing. Being normal. Yeah, absolutely. Really, and I think it's something that people had thought, oh, I'd really like to do that, but I didn't think I'd ever do it. That's what we used to get told. I didn't believe I could do it. I didn't think it was for me. Yeah. And so I think really being able to offer things, because it's not somebody that, somebody probably wouldn't come into my clinic and go, I'd really like to learn to paddleboard, can you teach me? But it's to go, look, I've got this little program going that I'm really, want to bring to the area, and would you like to be involved? It's just planting those seeds, really.
Encouraging
totally
the freedom to make that choice as well, because often we get stuck in not being able to make the choice, don't we?
And I think cancer is something which just takes the wind out of people's sails just completely. Quite often it's such a massive shock. I think, personally, I think people grieve, and I think that's a massive thing. And I think I've mentioned it, Linda, in our groups before, is that the communication around things as well, to me, is so important.
Yes.
When you're told of something, that you suddenly go, oh my God, I'm actually, it's about accepting it as well, really, of actually have that acceptance. Accepting it doesn't mean that you have to like it. It doesn't mean that you have to be beholden to it even. It just means that you have to be able to live every day and live your life to the fullest despite those things. But you can still be a better person, a fitter person, strive for better nutrition and all this sort of stuff. I think that's one thing that I do find difficult, is when particularly, it goes pain and cancer and many other different things as well, I suppose, in life, is that you think that that's your lot. And just to kind of know, and you can educate people till the cows come home, but unless they really think they want to do something, or it's that moment where they really, really want to do it, you're wasting your breath, really. You have to choose when to use your breath.
You do. It's just, and it's so difficult sometimes, because I guess from an outsider you can see the potential that someone might have, but it's really difficult to impart that feeling to them, to encourage them to move forwards in their own stride, isn't it?
Look, so, I tend to just like check in with people, like just how you're doing, and not push it, and choose when I say things. There's virtually every moment of the day you could be judgmental, couldn't you, and open your mouth and be it the person in the supermarket or the person at work who's just pulled out the can of Red Bull or whatever they do, and of just let it go. It's not, I don't have to change everybody.
No, So what would your approach to nutrition for a cancer patient be? Do you have a Bible or anything that you say, these are the things you ought to try, or perhaps this would be a good idea? What's your main game?
Look, I think you have to look holistic around the whole thing. Are we looking at somebody who's potentially has, is obese, needs to be fitter or more healthy, or inflammation, or maybe we're looking at something like, do we need to be looking at fasting or something like that? I mean, look, there is good and emerging research on things like ketogenic diets and fasting, intermittent fasting. I mean, Jason Fung has done amazing work in that cancer space.
Yeah.
I
haven't read any of his work on cancer. I'll have to have a read of that. I've read all the type 2 reversal stuff of Jason's, but I haven't looked at the cancer.
Yeah. So his book, The Cancer Code, is very good, and
I haven't got that one. I haven't got that book. Gosh, how have I missed that?
Another book to read. And just a lot of his. I mean, he's a very he's very experienced, and people really looked up to what he's saying. He's an amazing guy. But there's multiple other things coming up. It's a hard one, really. So I don't have certain things that I say. I would certainly, I would want to help people to move towards a healthier, what I see as a healthier diet is, less sugar, less carbs. Is it a keto diet? Is it it's whatever it needs to be for that person. I think more from a holistic point of view. It's a hard one. I think, dare I say, some people, maybe they have a cancer diagnosis, they're very much, like, I'm just going to eat as much sugar as I like,
this has happened too bad.
In a support group and things, it was like, I'm just comforting each other. This is what the support is. We're company. If you want to eat chocolate, eat chocolate. If you want to eat sugar, eat sugar, drink alcohol, whatever. And I think sometimes, when things are suggested, it would take an awful lot to try and change those people. They seem to be very set in their ways. You mentioned, PET scans and sugar and cancer.
That was sugar. A light bulb for me. When I had my PET scan, that was a light bulb for me, because my understanding of the PET scan that I had was the actual injection is full of glucose and radiation, and the cancer cells, because they love the sugar, they soak it up, and that's why they show up on the scan. So that was a real light bulb for me when I had to confront that, and it's pretty frightening, isn't it, at that moment? Well, it was for me. Having that was horrid. Awful.
Absolutely terrible. Everything that goes with that is absolutely terrible. But there are still many, many people who won't accept that sugar, cancer, any relation.
No, it's sugar's too ingrained in our life, isn't it? Yeah. It's difficult for people to understand. It's, the science is changing. The science is coming out. There's some brilliant people bringing out the news about sugar and diet and illness and chronic disease and manifestations and all of these things. But it's slower than I would like. I would like it to be faster. Slower than I would like.
I was listening to Belinda Fetka today, Gary Fetka's wife, and she was saying about the guidelines are meant to be, the dietary guidelines are meant to be redone every 10 years. Well, every 5 years. They've not been done for 10 years. Yeah. They've not been done.
No.
What's the reason behind not even doing them?
I've listened to that podcast. It's just
Isn't it great? It's it's a great heartbreak, but it is heartbreaking, and it's very real, So at the end of the day, there is so much research, but it's people choosing to see it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because we've been told this for most of our lives. You and I, for most of our lives, we've been told that this is the way to eat, and now all of a sudden it's flipping itself on its head. And this is the new way. So if I guess if you're treading that pathway, it's easier to accept. But if it's new news, it's new news, and you have to have time to digest. That's a word, but get it into your mindset. So you mentioned that you have different approaches. What are your different approaches? Is it in regards to movement, or is it more holistic based, or what kinds of things can you offer there?
Oh, so the different approaches would be, so when I'm talking about physio, I've done so many different, courses for this, a course for that, whether that's we used to use a lot of electrotherapy, and then that kind of went out of vogue. And then, and then we do a Maitland course and a Mackenzie course and a Pilates course and a yoga course and all that kind of stuff. And really those approaches, it's not about having a specific technique, in the same way as health coaching. It's more about actually, at the end of the day, people tend to get better if they believe in you, and if they think you believe in them.
Yes.
And
100%.
So when I've done women's health, people used to travel a long way, and you're like, well, you've come a long way for this appointment. It's like, but I was told because you treated someone else, and they improved, so I want to come and see you. And so I think that kind of stuff, so those kind of approaches, and I think that's the same with health coaching. Is I haven't so far done programs and things. I just do one-on-one.
Although, me too.
Yeah. Kind of because I don't want to be prescriptive.
Yes, exactly.
I actually really want to follow along somebody's own agenda. So if I have a program of 6 weeks that I'm going to talk about this and low carb and like, what if they don't want to listen to it? Well, it's a waste of their time, and it's a waste of their money, isn't it, really, at the end of the day, I think. But, like, I can see there's maybe as you do more coaching, that's something you might want to move into. I'm also looking into running some group classes. I did the Nutrition Network Eat Better South Africa. Did you see that? It was the group facilitation training. So I have Eat Better Australia branding. So
good on you.
Yeah,
that was clever.
Well, I really want to do it. It's just that at the moment, it's just life is too busy. So I think the whole Eat Better philosophy to me is amazing, and I love the Nutrition Network. And it's just about me working about how I do it in Australia. Because it's certainly it is different than South Africa. So, but I think the essence of it, and I think just doing things better. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think we have this notion that life has to be perfect, and everything we do has to be perfect. And I've tried to be perfect for a long, long time, but it's like, I've gone, I don't think I'm getting this right. I just need to be better. I just need to tomorrow be a better version of me today.
Yeah, that's
really what it is.
Yeah, and I feel like working in this space as well, there is no perfect, because every day is a different day, and everybody that you're working with has a different day than the day before, or a moment than the moment before. So you never can be perfect enough to navigate that. I think the idea that we have as coaches is to be able to support that person in those moments of either elation or not. We're there to walk side by side with them, to help them and be a sounding board. I feel like that's what our role should be.
It is, absolutely.
There is no perfect. So what kinds of results have you had with your patients that have taken on low carb, or your clients? Are they clients or patients? How do you?
Oh, look, I'm they're patients, but I think in this space they have to be clients because they're not sick. No. I don't know.
Well,
there is
they might be sick.
Well, they might be, but look, I think over the years, there's been so many debates on what you call people. And I think actually the person doesn't really care what they get called.
No, it's changing.
I don't know. I think it's just someone's agenda feeling that they need to change it again. And it's a client, it's a resident, it's a patient, it's a what. I don't care, you know, like at the end of the day. Sorry, what was the question?
So what results have you had? So you shared about this lovely lady really embracing her paddleboarding experience. So have you had any breakthrough moments with people making changes in their diet to improve health or to feel stronger or to become more active? Have you had any standout people that have really inspired you as a client?
Yep, I have got my 101-year-old lady that does tree poses.
Fantastic. Wow.
Who we on a daily basis do yoga at the bar.
With her, you do that with her. Wow.
Yep. Wow. She loves it. She loves it. She scared the life out of me a while ago when I walked in the room and I saw her on the floor, and she's like, "It's okay, Kath. I'm just practicing on the floor."
What are you doing on the floor? Yeah.
She's 101.
Wow.
So she's amazing. Another lady that, again, she's a work colleague actually, who she asked me about low carb, and I helped her. She lost 10 kilos.
Right.
Pretty easily, actually. I think people have this notion about low carb that it's something magic. And I don't think it's that magic, as in, I don't think it needs to be that difficult.
No,
when I do
agree.
low carb, I don't measure things for me. I don't care about my macros, my micros, my whatever. I choose food that I know is low in carb. I don't eat any sugar. I don't drink alcohol. I have drunk lots of alcohol, you know, like I used to be a bottle of wine, you know, a 5 o'clock drinker, you know, and there's probably not too many people who are not when they're bringing up children sometimes.
Exactly.
And then you suddenly go, actually, it's a bit boring because my husband's not drinking and I'm drinking on my own, and this isn't a very good role model to my children. So so I don't miss that at all. I don't measure things. I tend to look at, you know, the carbs and sugars on packets. I know what's low and what's not low, and I just kind of help people to kind of look at things simply. You get people who go, "Oh, I tried that for a while. It was so boring." I was like, how can it be boring? Like, there's such an array of foods that you can eat.
There is.
The stuff that you're not eating is boring to me. Like, how is bread and pasta and rice not boring? You know, it's tasteless, really. Everything else is the tasty stuff on the plate in my mind.
I know, anyway. Exactly. It is. And who would be sorry,
but I was going to say, like, I was the biggest bread eater in the world, you know, like I would have bread for breakfast, sandwich for lunch. I would have some kind of bread in the evening. I'll go, oh, there's no way I can stop eating bread. It's like, now I don't think about it like that at all.
No, me either. Bread's not on my, it used to be. I used to love a crusty white bread, and now it's just like, it's not going to do me any good. I'm not having that. Yeah. So who is your favourite person that's inspired you, like a doctor or a lecturer or a book? What's your favourite book, or who have you listened to that's clicked you on to being on the pathway that you're on, that turned the corner for you, or, you know, changed your trajectory to becoming more holistic, more low carb? Anyone in particular?
My first introduction to low carb was actually through Karen Zinn. Do you know the dietitian, Karen Zinn?
Yeah, I have heard of Karen, yes.
Yeah, so she's in New Zealand, but she works with, she helped write the What the Fat books, but she also had issues with talking about low carb. And she was presenting on, when I did my postgrad in physio, she happened to do a nutrition element, maybe one lesson. And she said, this was about 8 or 9 years ago, and she said, we're just starting to talk about this diet thing. She says, but I can't really talk about it, but I'm going to say something anyway. And so she started talking about, you know, some experiments they've been doing, and they were looking into reducing carbs and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So I must admit, like, so I spoke to her a bit more and things. And so she was one of the first people that I ever looked into low carb and spoke to, and that was amazing. As far as other people, I love. I listen to Ben Bickman quite a lot.
Oh my God, my little heart throbs when I hear his name. When his little stories come up on Instagram, I'm just right there with you. Yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I find a lot of what he says totally over the top of my head.
But it kind of makes sense as well.
But it's very
like
simple.
It's over there, but it's...
Yeah, he's got a really great way of presenting things and coming back to things and stuff. And I love listening to him talk. You know, Tim, any of the nutrition network people, you know, there's just so many things that you can, or people you can listen to. And like Tracy McBeath, you know, like, you know, I'm absolutely like besotted by everything she talks about.
Yeah.
I feel
she's
like
a good chick, isn't she? Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. She is amazing.
She's absolutely inspiring. And yeah, when I said, I think the other week, I was like, I want to be her in 5 years' time. So that's going to be me. Like, I'm going to be
the Kath version of Tracy, huh?
I will.
The Kath version of Tracy. Oh, gorgeous. So people wanting to contact you or have a journey with you or a moment, what's the best way for them to find you?
I don't have a website yet. That's something I'm working on.
Good.
My company is Hebe Health Coaching.
Hebe, H-E-B-E. H-E-B-E, Health Coaching.
So Hebe is the fountain of youth, the Greek goddess and fountain of youth. Yeah, I know. It's really cool. And so that I will be working on my Hebe Health Coaching website.
Social media.
I have a small social media presence. I'm under Kath PJ at the moment, so which is really just my personal one. But yeah, I'm also on the Hakanza website. As a health coach, and my contact details and emails are on there.
Okay. And I have your email address that you've sent to me. Is that all right for me to give people, or have you got a work email address that you might send to me?
I can send you an email.
Yeah, send me that. So when I put it out, I'll put some, I'm learning how to put the links in on the Zoom thingy when it goes onto my YouTube channel. So I'll put them there. When I work out how to do them, they'll be going there.
Yeah, lovely. All these things, you just got to like, I think, you know, just work on them as and when they come up, isn't it? You know, you're never going to know enough. And like, if that's going to stop you doing something, we're always really good at putting barriers up, aren't we? I mean, like, my heart stops when anyone talks about technology stuff. Oh, you need to do a website. And you know, I can do a website if I get some help. You know, it's like at the end of the day, these things need to be done, don't they?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I've struggled myself with social media presence, and I don't know, I sometimes feel like it invades my personal space, but I also know that in the world that we're in now, that's how people find you. You can't advertise in the newspapers anymore. Letterbox drops get put in the bin. You know, that's what we used to do back in the real estate days, cold calling people. It's not the way. You have to be present in front of people and be there for people to find you. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, you do, whether that makes you comfortable or not. And like, you know, I've spent 50 odd years sitting in the background, and I just actually go, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a front person. I'm a background dweller. I'm a watcher and waiter and listener. So for me to be even doing this is, you know, it's taken me about 6 months to get to this point. Tracy's been on my case. You need to get something going. So here I am.
Amazing. Well, you've taken up the challenge absolutely amazingly. And sometimes you just, like you say, just got to grab it, you know.
Got to run.
You
All right.
absolutely
Well, thank
have.
you for your time. I know that you're working hard and it's late for you over there in sunny Gold Coast. Did I get it
Sunshine
right?
Coast.
Sunshine
Sunshine Coast.
Coast. I never know the difference between them. I'm a bit naive to Brisbane and Queensland, and I've been to Port Douglas.
I've never been to Port Douglas.
I've been there. All right. Well, I will speak to you soon. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
Linda.
for coming along. I really value all that you've said, the time that you've given me, and your patience. I really, really value
Thank
it. So
you.
thank you. And I'll
No
be seeing
problem.
you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, Kath. Bye-bye.
Bye.